What's good, people? I have to speak on this because this has been bothering me for quite some time now, and it's this idea that people have become fixated on. Some people to the point of saying that they won't bother seeing it if it doesn't happen, and that's this idea that for some reason Spider-Man in this upcoming reboot here just has to be black, or at least any other minority, but not a white guy. And what I mean by that is not just the whole Miles Morales thing, which is also incredibly impractical because, being realistic, the kid has had, what, 5 years in comics? He's got maybe... Does he even have a single landmark story that's not an event where he basically was handed center stage? I don't think so. I really don't. I mean, some of his most notable stuff has been Spider-Man No More, which they recycled from 616, and they did twice. But it's just... It's this weird thing where they seem to think that Peter and Miles should be interchangeable, and they really are. They're just not. And it's way too soon to bring him on the screen, but that's neither here nor there. There's this notion that Peter Parker has to be cast with a black actor. Or maybe a Latino actor. But definitely not a white actor. Because reasons. And I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at some of this stuff. Forbes magazine actually coming out and saying that if they don't cast a black or at least non-white actor as Spider-Man, then they're going to start questioning the overall competence of the MCU. They're saying that if they don't cast someone who's not white, it's a sign that they are incompetent. And I don't know what the heck to say to that. I mean, I will link you the article where they even say that. It's ridiculous. And I mean, they even outright say, too, that they're going to be... Well, for one thing, they misreport off the bat and say that Marvel has completely recovered Spider-Man from Sony Pictures. I don't understand this is some really shoddy reporting on Forbes' part. But then we have an article from Time Magazine. And Time Magazine, Ileana Doctorman writes this article, ranting about how they went with Peter Parker again. And it's just... Yeah. Where is it? Here it is, yep. Bad news for fans, she calls it. We don't want to see Peter Parker again, she argues, because she knows all things, apparently, that we think. Apparently, Miles Morales needed to be cast in the role because he's black, quite literally. And of course, the Avengers need that diversity, and it's just hilarious to me that she wrote this article and put out there how the Avengers have no diversity and that they need it and everything, and like right after this article came out, suddenly there's the Avengers and there's heck, you know what, it's been out for about a month. If you haven't seen it, I don't care. You know, there's War Machine, there's Falcon, there's Scarlet Witch. They're joining the Avengers. Look at that diversity. So, can we drop the affirmative action yet? No, probably not, because then it'll become not enough Asians or not enough Hispanic people, and, you know, it just never ends, really. Oh, with the social justice crowd, I swear to God. Moving on. Yep, they're gonna stick with good old boring Peter Parker. And they're insisting we're gonna have to sit through the same origin story again, despite Feige outright saying that that's not going to be in there. And then she closes up the article saying, and I quote, "But Marvel Studios has made some savvy moves lately, announcing their first feature film led by a female superhero in Captain Marvel and a black superhero in Black Panther. Perhaps Marvel can heed Uncle Ben's advice. With great power comes great responsibility, and think outside the box for the next Peter Parker, too." Now, here's the problem with this. In terms of Captain Marvel, unless you're going for the half-Kree superhero, it's always been Carol Danvers, although she was Miss Marvel at a time. And when it comes to Black Panther, he is black. That is literally not thinking outside the box for either of them. So what I'm failing to see here is how the inclusion of a black superhero who has always been black and a female superhero who has pretty much always been female is somehow Marvel thinking outside the box. Because it's really not. It's Marvel sticking to these characters as they are. So you're using two cases of Marvel sticking to the characters as presented in the comic book to argue that they should make Peter Parker not as presented in the comic book. Even going so far as to say it is their responsibility to do so. Responsibility to who? Who exactly should they feel responsible to make certain that Peter Parker, who was, you know, designed to be, frankly, what he is, he was made the way he was made, he's been this way for 50 years, who do they have a responsibility to change that? Wow, how is that their responsibility? I thought their responsibility, considering they were, you know, adapting something, was to adapt it faithfully and bring the character to life. I thought that was really their sole responsibility. Everything else would be window dressing, would it not? But apparently not. I mean, that's what they're concerned about, first and foremost. And the bottom line is, there's this weird, bizarre, massive call to either replace Peter Parker outright or just make him a black kid. And I don't quite get why. I mean, it's not unheard of. It has happened before. White characters have been made black, sure. But, I mean, at the same time, they weren't really characters who were being called for to be made black. I mean, sort of, I suppose, in the case of Michael B. Jordan, but that's less because he's black and more because he's Michael B. Jordan and has a fan base. And when they heard that he was being considered, they campaigned very hard. And, you know, now he's the Human Torch, and for whatever reason, his sister's no longer his actual sister, but adopted. Okay. But it's one of those things where it's like, Spider-Man is literally the only hero I've seen to have an active and vocal campaign to turn him away from what he actually is. And I just can't help but wonder why. Why do people keep acting like he's suddenly unrelatable, even though they've been able to relate to him and love him for 50 years just because of his skin color? I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to take that mask off and have him smile and look like me. No, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, except for the fact that he is who he is. I mean, if you really think that you cannot like a superhero because they are not a complete reflection of your power or gender or what have you, then you're kind of shallow, to be perfectly blunt. And one of the beautiful things about Spider-Man is that he is relatable to everybody. He is the everyman. He does go through some very real troubles. But, I mean, on the one hand, you have everyone saying that I can't relate to him because he doesn't look like me all of a sudden. And then on the other hand, you have all these people saying that he's too relatable, he's too normal, he needs to be some sort of zit-encrusted social reject that absolutely nobody wants to talk to, who has a face that only a mother could love. Because apparently they think that was Peter Parker. You know, the guy that 3 drop-dead gorgeous women fell head over heels for at various points in his life. I mean, even if you don't count the relationships that got serious, he's been dated by some very attractive women. He is not an ugly man. But for some reason, we keep hearing how people are too attractive to play Peter Parker, too good-looking to play Peter Parker, too physically fit to play Peter Parker because, you know, the fact that he's strong with bulging muscles under that suit must all be padding, right? Oh, good lord. I'm not even going to get into that because, yeah, superhero comics, especially as soon as they put the spandex on, tend to exaggerate proportions. But Peter is not unfit, so I don't understand, and he didn't magically grow it overnight either. I mean, he wasn't, like, super powerful, but he wasn't, you know, a twig. And everyone seems to think he's supposed to be. Everyone also seems to think that when he gets his powers, his eyesight's supposed to magically be fixed and he never needs anything anymore, which is actually funny because Peter actually only wears those glasses to make Aunt May happy. They're reading glasses and he doesn't actually need them. But I digress. It's just, why him? I suppose is the thing I really want to know. Why is he the one that gets put under this kind of scrutiny? I don't get it. I really don't. Oh, well. At any rate, on this same note, I have another video topic that I want to cover, so I shall see you guys later. Adios.